Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. Today we have special guests because we have two people usually it's one-on-one, but today we have TH and Jessica, who are besties, co-founders of exEXPERTS and co-hosts of Divorce Etc. podcast. They created this platform and these resources because when their marriages ended in 2008, they had one another throughout the process and leaned on one another for business of divorce. But even more importantly, for the emotional side of this life shift, they had one another, but most people are navigating all of this alone. So they build it, they lived it so that they get it. And now they're your girlfriends through divorce and beyond. Welcome, TH and Jessica. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having us, Irina.
Thank you, Irina.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. So please share with me, how did you become single parents? I don't know, TH, you want to go first and then pass it over to Jessica?
Honestly, Jessica tells this story better. So I'm just going to let her start and then we'll finish each other's sentences.
Oh, I have to briefly take you back to before we became single parents, because I've been married and divorced twice, but my first husband and TH were best friends from high school. So I had heard about, and he and I met in college. So I'd heard all about his best friend, TH. She came up to our college campus for a Halloween party. She had not heard anything about me. I did not know that. So I see her come in and I go running up to her. I'm so excited to meet her. I'm like, oh my God, you're TH. And she literally looks at me and she's like, where's Darren? So I go over to Darren and I'm like, that's your best friend? She's a bitch. She was so standoffish, but I didn't know she hadn't heard anything about me. She had had a few drinks already. I ran up to her in her face. So fast forward a couple of years, we have all graduated. We're all living in New York City, and her soon to be fiance and mine became really close themselves. They ended up being best friends. TH and I ended up being best friends. We got engaged within a month of each other. We got married within a month of each other. We were traveling around. We were getting together all the time. We were living life together as two couples. And then 13 years into our marriages, within 1 week of each other, we found out that both of our husbands were having affairs and covering for each other. So while we were home working and taking care of the kids, they would go away together and they would tell us that they're going on guys' trips, but really they were traveling and taking their girlfriends away together. So we started our divorces exactly at the same time, but our husbands were very different men. And so we had very different divorces. But either way, we didn't really have a lot of experience with divorce. Truthfully, we were a little younger than kind of the quote unquote typical age group where people start getting divorced. We were young in our 30s. Our kids were really young, and our parents are still together. So we recognized how fortunate we were throughout the entire process, that every day we could call each other and be like, did you know this? What happened today? What did your lawyer tell you? Don't forget to add this into your settlement. Do you understand what this means? And we would say to each other, how do people do this alone? We have to figure out a way to be able to pay it forward to other people who are going through this, because we don't know how we would have done it had we not had each other. Through not just the business of divorce, like you said in your intro, but through the emotional side of it. We were already best friends. Our husbands were already best friends. Our kids knew each other. We arranged it so our weekends were the same with the kids. So we always had a place to go. We spent holidays together and our first New Year's together. We weren't alone in the process. And it, as you know, can be really lonely and overwhelming and depressing and scary. And It was all of those things, but we literally had someone side by side who was going through it, who we could call and talk about it with. That's the background.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And yes,
And that's how experts in divorce, et cetera, started, because there were no resources for us other than one another. And now there is so much noise, and the divorce space is so cluttered with nonsense and misleading hope and misleading information. So we created this platform. So we vetted it all. We've cleared the clutter. We've removed the noise. You can trust the education that you're going to get from our site and from the experts who share, as well as us, who we consider ourselves real life experts. And that's how it started. So as far as single parenting, I personally was a single parent during my marriage. My husband was MIA for the last 4 years of my marriage, as soon as my son was born. So at that point, I had a newborn, a 2.5-year-old, and a 4-year-old when my son was born. And I was actually just talking to my parents about it today. Without them helping me on weekends, and one's swimming and one's playing soccer, and then I got a kid at home who needs a nap at 2:00. Like, there was no way that I could do it. So single parenting was really kind of thrust upon me. I would say the only positive to it for me at that time was I didn't have to ask anybody what they thought. It was my way or the highway. That was it. I made the rules that worked for me. I didn't care about anybody else. Everyone got where they needed to go. Really had a great group of friends who helped me with carpools, because I helped them. We always got the car with the third row because we had like 6 kids in the car going to gymnastics or, whatever it is. So it does take a village when you're a single parent to make sure your kids are, able to participate in all the awesome things, and that the limits are not because you can't get them there.
Right.
So I was prepared for the official end of my marriage, because I'd been practicing for many years. And, so I can start with that and then answer any other questions that you have, post. But that's really when it started for me. As soon as my son was born, my husband decided that he wasn't really interested in being around the family.
oh wow. But kudos to you finding each other, or being kind of a support system. When I became a single parent, I had my mom, but emotionally it was all me. Me, myself,
Right,
and
and
I.
you're listening to your voices in your head, which are not always good.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really daunting.
One of the things that was different, I think, for me, when I got separated and divorced, in terms of being a single parent. I mean, I worked a full-time job, so we did have a nanny. God bless her. Because she ended up being, I don't have any family nearby. And while TH was my best friend, she was living in New Jersey and I was living in New York City. So it wasn't like we could help each other carpool. And I did not have that kind of community around me when you're living in an apartment building in New York City. And as someone who was always working, I wasn't at school drop-offs. I wasn't doing all of the kids' activities. So the truth is, I didn't know a lot of the moms in my kids' classes and things like that. So I didn't have that element of a support system. I had on the phone the emotional support system through TH, and was able all of these years to kind of watch how she and her New Jersey friends rally around each other. It is amazing to see. I really had to rely on our nanny, who would go back and forth with the kids. She was the one who figured out how to get everybody where they needed to be. I had 2 kids, not 3. So it made it a little easier for her. And my ex, he didn't even really have to deal with it so much, particularly during the week, because we had this amazing nanny. And I feel like for us, it was more about when they were getting signed up for activities, making sure that there wasn't an overlap that was going to make it impossible for her to do one thing or the other. But yeah, I mean, it was more challenging for me on the weekends because I was not used to being a single parent, and it was exhausting. exhausting. My kids were 2 and 4, and I would be working, 5 days a week at ungodly hours. I worked in morning TV, 12 hours, 14 hours a day. And the weekends, then I was like on, same thing, at the crack of dawn, because my kids were so young, having to, as you know, occupy them and entertain them throughout the day. I turned into like an Olympic level napper when my kids were younger. Nothing could get by me. Like if there was an opportunity to shut my eyes for a few minutes, I was on it. TH has pictures of me.
We used to have parties at our house when we were all married. And where is Jessica? Darren's in the pool with the kids. Everybody's whatever. Jessica's laying on a lounge chair. Picture this, with her hands behind her head, her eyes closed, her legs stretched out, passed out.
Completely.
I definitely have a picture of that. I was like, what is happening?
And there was a trip we had taken when we were all still married, to Europe together, and we had it was an overnight flight, so we got to the hotel before we could check in. So we were sitting in the lobby, like waiting, and TH has a picture of me, and I'm totally like passed out.
She's passed out. She's
waiting,
got running down her face.
I really felt like the transition for me to becoming a single parent was very challenging. I had not eased into it. It was like all of a sudden it was there, and it was not easy. It was not easy. It taught me. I look back now and I think like I so wish that I had had more patience. I just didn't. I was so wired up all the time. But look, now my kids are 17 and 19, they're still alive. So I guess I did something right.
So what helped you unwind in those times, other than having TH as your emotional support?
Right. So this is actually funny. Essential oils. My sister turned me on to them. I started using them in a diffuser to like decompress after work and be able to get ready for bed and to sleep better. And honestly, they really did change my life, to the point where I have a side hustle selling essential oils on the side, because I so wholeheartedly believe in them. I'm a very high energy person to begin with. I had to be at work super early in the morning, and sometimes I worked on shows that like went later on at night, and I would get home, sometimes close to midnight, and I can't just go right to bed. I would be so wired from being in the studio. It's an adrenaline rush like nothing else. It would take me an hour or two to be able to actually decompress and calm down. So thank God for my essential oils. Thank God for my TH. We always joke that thank God for Darren, because TH and I got each other in the divorce.
Right.
And then it was just, learning patience better, and learning that I have to pick my battles, and I can't allow myself to get completely bent out of shape about things that are completely out of my control. It's a hard lesson.
So we spent the weekends together. Like we were talking about it a few weeks ago. Our kids have been together since before they were born. Our weekends were together. Jessica would come out here. We belonged to a pool club. The kids were all together running around. So that was like also our relaxing time, because the kids were busy and happy
and gated in.
We had a chance to just like sit down at a meal that wasn't chicken fingers and mac and cheese, unless you ordered that because you wanted it. But we really did like spend our free time together as much as we could. I think the scariest single parenting moments, I know for Jessica, was also like just being alone if there was a problem, because she was in the city, she was in an apartment, I was in New Jersey. For me, I always had someone that I could call in case of an emergency. I need you to come over here, I'm dropping my kids off, whatever. And so that's when becoming a single parent and being in a time of like a really scary moment, and you don't have someone to bounce it off of, or physically have another human being there to help you, really is shocking and difficult.
Yeah, I had a couple of really scary single mom moments that were very like eye-opening for me, and I didn't have anybody around. So it is hard.
Yeah, you're right. And the realization usually doesn't come until you're like faced with the situation. But as a single parents, we wear many hats. You got to know.
That's right.
You have to fix things.
It's so not easy. It's not easy being a parent.
Right.
It's not easy being a single parent. It's not easy being a divorced single parent. It's not like no one said it was easy. You just you hope that all of the goodness that comes out of parenting outweighs whatever you had to deal with in order to get there. But kids are really, good kids, and they love unconditionally. So that gives us a little bit of grace.
I have also always said to people, and who knows, because I only know my own situation, but I also feel like my kids were so young when I got divorced. They were 2 and 4. And as exhausting as little kids are, the easy part, if I can say, was the fact that they were 2 and 4. So they, mostly listened to the stuff that I said. They did the things that I told them to do. They, bath and bed, they're in bed by 7 o'clock at night. I mean, I feel like it probably would have been a lot more challenging for me had my kids maybe been 12 and 14 and at an age where they're talking back to me and have an opinion and are being rude and having to deal with all of that.
That happens before age 12,
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like what, even like 10 and beyond, I just feel like the fact that they were so young, it did give me time to cry to myself, sit with my own emotions. Like once they went to bed, even though it was maybe a short window from the time, that I got home or whatever, it's like, I don't know. I always kind of felt like that hour or two before I would go to bed, which is why it was so important for me to be able to decompress, was like the only time that I could really think about things, because during the day when I was at work, there was no time to actually bemoan my circumstances. So I am a little bit thankful that my kids were as young as they are, because aside from the logistical part of it and just kids wear you out, I feel like I'm lucky that this is how they grew up. This is what they know. People would say to me, even if, a few years beyond that, gosh, I feel so bad for your kids, it must be so hard going back and forth. And I would say to them, they don't know any different. This is what it's been like for them since they were 2 and 4. So it may be hard. I mean, it may be harder than what it was when I grew up, but it's normal for us. This is just how our normal, and this is just how they live. So they've adapted. Kids are very adaptable, thankfully.
You're right. You're right. What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
I think, that's a little bit of a trick question. I will answer it this way. I think one of the things that I'm proudest about as a mother, with all of the millions of things that I've done wrong over the years, one of the things that I'm most proud of is the fact that in times of distress or emergency, or when the kids are at rock bottom, they come to me and they are open and they are honest with me about what's going on. If they are at risk of deep trouble, or if someone is in grave danger, and unfortunately we've been in some circumstances like that with my kids, I pride myself on the fact that I must have done something right about instilling in them that I'm always here for them, and that things can be hard, but they can always be open and honest with me. So I want to say, like, what's the most important trait? Like, honesty and communication and things like that. But I think it's more for me just the fact that I'm like one of their people that they come to, as opposed to hiding stuff. They do their share of hiding stuff, but when it comes to the serious stuff, I'm the one that they come to. And so I feel like somehow in all of the chaos, I instilled in them that I'm their solid rock for no matter what. What?
You're a safe space for them.
I'm a safe space for them. And I think that with kids of divorce who are going through transition, and that transition lasts, many, many years, because whatever they were thinking or feeling at 2 and 4 is totally different when they're 8 and 10, and then totally different when they're 13 and 15. So they're kind of always transitioning. And I feel like an important trait is that they know that they always have a place to go.
You're right. You're right. You're right. You did something right, that they feel open and comfortable with you to share. And how about you, TH? What do you think?
I think there are a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a trick question.
Yeah, there are a lot of things. But the thing that's standing out in my mind right now, which is not to dismiss what Jessica's saying, because I agree 100%, is a sense of resilience and that they can do it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, we will all figure it out. We will be there for one another and we will move beyond it and we will be okay. Whatever it is, when it comes to, you know, our family and the way things change and where their dad's living, where I'm living, who you're with, where you're going to school, you know, their own friends, their own relationships. There's like a lot of challenging things that come all of our ways all the time.
Right.
But as kids, we always want to safeguard them. You know, we want to protect our kids, except they have to live. They have to be facing challenges so they know better for next time and educate. So I think like really being resilient and knowing that they're going to be okay with their resilience. It's okay. It's all going to be okay. There's Tom Hanks was on some video, probably on TikTok or YouTube or something. And he goes, everything's great in your life. This too shall pass. Everything sucks in your life. This too shall pass. You feel like crap today. This too shall pass. You got this awesome job. This too shall pass. And so I kind of go along with that theory. Nothing is going to knock you down unless you allow it to. So let's just support one another, figure it out, and keep moving forward. I think that's really what and we lead by example.
Right.
So that's, you know, that's what stands out in my mind.
You're right. The only thing in life that is constant is change.
That's right.
That's
And
right.
we resist change so much because we want to be comfortable and safe. And this is primary directive of our subconscious mind, is to keep us there. So it's always difficult to change yourself or change others, even more so.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you think is your personal superpower if you had to pick one?
Maybe
That is a
we
good
should say it
question.
for each other.
No, I think you have to
Because
say
I
your
can't
own.
think of one for myself.
I think you have to. Well, I certainly can say one for you. I do think that one of TH's superpowers is being able to actually live in the moment and being able to take things as they come in and not necessarily having like a knee-jerk reaction to things. It's something that I always try to emulate from her. It's something I learned from her, because I do not have that. But I would say for myself, I think my superpower, not to like just, you know, be repetitive, but I think it's what TH is talking about, resilience. Like I'm going to say the last 5-7 years for me have been a complete roller coaster, and sometimes have been a total shit show. And I have been through some shit. And I feel like, my superpower is not resilience. It's my positivity and my optimism,
That's what I was
which
gonna
I think shows itself in resilience. I have a very positive mindset, and I believe in everything that TH just said. Like it all works out. I wholeheartedly in my soul am a person who believes in this spirituality of everything happens for a reason and everything happens the way it's supposed to. And so for me, even when I'm like at the lowest points, I feel like I'm always able to kind of see the silver lining and see the light at the end of the tunnel. I would say that that's probably my superpower is my eternal optimism.
Yeah, Jessica like emulates an energy that just isn't normal. It's and not normal in saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just not something you come across. And she could have the worst day and she'd be like, oh, big smile, big energy. You're just like, oh my God, I guess I'm happy now. Like you can't be upset. You can't be upset around Jessica. She just like spews rainbows and unicorns on you, and you have to just like dance in it. So that's what I would say is another superpower.
What about your own superpower?
Mine?
I meant for TH, since I said what I thought TH's was. I'm wondering if what she thinks it is.
I'm not really good talking about myself.
Okay.
Like I think being present is not something that I started with. It's something that I have had to practice because I have a son who really struggled for many years. And the best way to communicate, the only way to communicate with him was to live in that exact second that we were living in. And that's actually just a really great practice for life. And just to show gratitude for yourself, like to really take, you don't want to miss a minute of your life. We have no idea of what's waiting for us in 10 minutes from now. You can have a plan, but it may not happen. So I have learned to just really be where I'm at and meet people where they are. So maybe that's it.
It is, it's true. But now, Irina,
Irina, what's yours?
Curious. Yeah, what's yours?
I think it's also, being present and positive. I like what you mentioned. Both are important. In your case, Jessica, you rise up so much easier to life challenges because you always bring that positive attitude and mindset to the table. So nothing can happen that's going to ruin that. And you kind of add an additional kind of, additional spark to that.
Right. Another zing.
Yeah, another thing. Yeah. And with UTH, I think being present is so important, especially in our fast-paced world and society. We have an attention span of 3 seconds now. We gotta zoom in. We gotta be present. We gotta stay there so that we feel alive, because we just sometimes pass through the day. We pass through the life without feeling alive. We're just doing things, we're ticking boxes off, and we miss our own life in the pursuit of something, I don't know what. Pursuit of happiness somewhere outside, or pursuit of a next job or a next thing, but we miss out that present moment. So both powers, I think, are great to have, and ability to practice that allows you to be present and allows you to be resilient to anything that life brings, and that is amazing.
Yeah.
What kind of advice can you share for single parents who are just stepping onto the journey of single parenting?
I would say there is no such thing as a perfect parent. Okay. I don't care what you see on TV. I don't care what you read in the books or how many books you're going to read. There is no such thing. Nobody can teach you how to know your kids better than you do. Nobody. And if you trust your gut, you will be okay. And if you're okay, then your kids will be okay. And whether you're a single parent or you're married, look, even when you're married, someone's taking one kid somewhere and someone's taking another kid somewhere else, or someone's at work and the other one's at home, or everybody takes on different jobs. So you're single parenting, even if you're in a relationship of a traditional marriage, or you're in, whatever it is, you're a single parent at some point. You're reading the story before bed, the other one's taking a bath. Whatever it is, just trust your gut. Don't let other people sway you. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because we cannot do this alone. There's no one who's dressed for the day, who is out with their kids early for school with all their shit in their bag, okay? There's nobody like that. And if they are, they're full of shit and they're going home and they're crying and they're putting their pajamas back on, okay? So don't believe the hype. Just trust your gut. Do the best you can. You're going to make a lot of mistakes.
I think that what I would say with regards to one of the most important things about being a single parent, and this was I mentioned it a little bit earlier, I referenced it. It was a very hard lesson for me to learn, but it's that you cannot micromanage what's happening with your kids when they are with their other parent, with your ex. And you really do have to learn how to pick your battles. I'm a very type A person, and I do things in a very specific way. And I like the way that I do things. And, my kids were really young when I got divorced, and we were really only together for a couple of years as parents, married. And the truth is, things were probably being done my way because I was the one who was sort of running the show. That's a double entendre. Literally running the show. But once we were separated, and then I would hear about what my kids were doing when they were with their dad, or different things that he would start allowing them to do at ages that I did not feel they were ready for, I would work myself up into a frenzy, and I would be so angry, and I would be yelling at him and telling him, you know, you can't do this or you can't do that. But the truth was, I didn't have that written into my parenting agreement. I didn't have certain rules around how old my kids needed to be before he could stick them in an Uber by themselves. You know, I didn't have something written into my agreement about how old they could be to take the subway. And he would say to me repeatedly, I'm doing things my way. You are welcome to do things your way, and I'm going to do things my way. And I expended a lot of energy on being angry about the way that he was doing things. And I had to, over time and over years, learn how to just take a deep breath and let it go. Because I could sit and scream at him all day long, and I was the only one that was upset about it. And it was a waste of my time, and it was a waste of my valuable energy. So I think that you really have to understand from the beginning and be able to accept the fact that the rules may be different at your house and the other person's house. And if there are very specific things, maybe I've just given you some ideas, depending on where you live, that you may want to write into your parenting agreement. Your kids have to be a certain age before they're allowed to ride in an Uber alone, or things like that. But if you don't have, you know, there just isn't anything you can do. So don't sweat the small stuff, I guess is what I would say.
And even if it was written into the parenting agreement and it's not, you know, abided by, you're going to go lawyer up over it. I mean,
right.
You know,
you gotta pick your battles.
You're right. Yeah. Focus on what you can control. The thoughts in your head.
Right.
That's it.
It's so important. It took me a very long time to accept that I should really focus on what I can control, because there was so much that was out of my control. And I think honestly that that's helped me in so many other areas of my life. TH and I have talked about it so many times. Like, I do believe that so many different things that happen in my life, I'm able to like just let roll off my back in ways that I likely was not able to do, you know, 15 years ago, because that's just not going to be a major thing in my life later. So I don't need to work myself up around it.
Yeah. So what's next for you guys?
Well, we offer one-on-one sessions with people. So that's something we're really focusing on. We are also really spending time. We built this whole platform to help you if you're thinking about divorce and going through it. And now we're really focusing on what's next, because that's where the real work begins. You don't have your team anymore. You're not lawyering up anymore. You're not actually paying anybody anything. Now you have to have hope that you are paying attention enough during your divorce to learn some things about budgeting and investing, what kind of money you have, what kind of opportunities you have for a career, where you want to live, all of that you can now start to put into play. So we are your girlfriends at any step. We've been out of our marriages 15 years, only married 13. Now it's only married 13, right?
Yeah.
We've been out living our best lives afterwards, and it really is all going to be okay. Just remember that this is an opportunity. It's upsetting. It's a shift. There's a whole new normal for you, but we are your support through it all. We've dated, Jessica got married and divorced again and moved a million times, and new relationships, new jobs. The kids are getting older and they have new issues, and now they're brave to ask questions. So we've been through it all. So we are really focusing now on helping you beyond your divorce and helping to lift you up. And you're capable of whatever the hell you want. Honestly, you just have to want it bad enough and really keep your eye on the prize. So that's what we are doing ourselves. We are leading by examples in that way. And you can, follow us and join us and, reach out to us and we will help you get there.
Awesome. Where would people go if they want to follow you?
I mean, we're pretty much anywhere where someone might want to be. We have our website. It's exEXPERTS.com. It's all spelled out, exexperts.com. We have our Divorce Etc. podcast, which is on every podcast platform. We have our, Instagram account, our TikTok account, our LinkedIn, our Facebook, and now we have a new YouTube channel. Our handle everywhere is just at exEXPERTS. So for us, it was important to be wherever someone might be looking for the information. We don't want to alienate anyone. And so someone can find us literally anywhere. You can read the articles, you can read the transcripts, you can listen to the podcast, you can get the tips we offer on social, you can subscribe to our newsletter, exEXPERTS, in your inbox. That's where you'll find, the most information about what's new, what's coming up, new experts, podcast sponsorships, just all of the news going on. But also every single week, we send out a personal note that we know from the engagement from our community is relatable. So it's things that we're going through and things that we've gone through that you likely have gone through or are going through also. And so that's what we try to do, to let people know we're like along for the ride. We've been there, so we get it, but we're also always all still going through it, and we understand.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to include everything in episode notes. It's been a pleasure of having you both here for this special episode. And I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for creating the community and the support, because divorce can be tough and you make it easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Irina. We really appreciate the opportunity.